You are limited in the amount of money that you can contribute to your IRAs every year, but you are not limited to the amount of money that you can make in those IRAs every year. And points are far more important than a percentage on your loans. My name is Rich Lennon. Welcome to Growing Money, where we talk about growing the money and we talk about lending every morning from 8 to 8:10. Had some good questions. They were repeat questions this week from my group, and I thought I would share and answer those questions here. So let's dig right in. I need a coffee and got a frog in my throat this morning. Okay, this is a common misconception that a lot of people have. I understand that because people keep asking me this same question. And I understand it's a confusion that I had as well when I first started doing self-directed IRAs. So you are limited in the amount of money that you can contribute every year. It's based on age. So it's also based on how much income you make. So if you don't make enough income, you can't contribute to your IRAs. It has to be earned income, by the way. It can't be, it has to be earned income. And so there are some limitations, and you have to make sure you follow those. But you can contribute $7,000 to $8,000 depending on your age, up to $7,000 or $8,000 depending on your age, and that changes every year. So they seem to rewrite that. It's not raw law rules. I don't know. They do with inflation, but almost every year they come back and they add $500 and they give some bonuses for age every once in a while. So it changes. It varies, and so you have to pay attention every year. It's very Googleable, and you can find that out. But I think that when I talk to people about they can move their IRAs and they can invest the money, they get confused because I say things like, hey, you can flip a home in your IRA, you can make $50,000, you can stick it in your IRA. That's probably not good language on my part when I say you can stick it in your IRA, and that's probably where that confusion comes from. When you can do an investment with the tax identification number of the IRA, similar to when you're doing a flip. Otherwise, you're doing it with an LLC that has a tax identification number. So in that regard, they're very similar. There's, of course, a bunch of IRA rules that you have to make sure you follow when you're doing a flip or a complicated investment inside your IRA. There even can be some tax implications, so make sure that you pay attention to it. But my point is that you can make that investment and you can get the proceeds from the investment, but they don't ever come back to you and then you have to contribute to the IRA to put it in there. It is that the investment vehicle is does the transaction and the money stays within the IRA the entire time. So when the profit is realized, the profit is realized within that account. So you're not contributing to it. It is just the investment that is reaping the rewards. And the clearest example of that is Peter Thiel. Now, Peter Thiel invested in his Roth IRA. He invested in PayPal when PayPal was very young, when it was very low stock valuation. And then, of course, over time, PayPal grew and that stock grew. And ultimately, he had, I believe, several billion, with a B, billion dollars in his Roth IRA. Of course, that really pissed off Congress, and then Congress wanted to get rid of a lot of the Roth rules. And so, Peter, we're all kind of impressed, but at the same time, we're all kind of annoyed. So well done, but stop doing that. And, but he's not limited in the amount of money that he can make within that Roth IRA. He's just limited, although that account is worth billions of dollars now. He can only contribute $7,000 or $8,000 a year to that account. Although I suspect once you get a couple billion in there, you stop making those yearly contributions. At least I would. All right. So yes, well done, Mr. Thiel. But I hope that clarifies it. I probably used the language "stick it in your IRA." That's probably not good language, and maybe that's where the source of the confusion comes from. Another question I got: I think people consistently get confused on points and percentages when you're dealing with a loan, and so I'll put a post out on Facebook and I'll say, hey, I'm earning 13 and 3, and someone will say, how is that 20%? And so it's 13 and 3 over 6 months, which is important, but it is 20%. And so I thought I'd go over that a little bit today, and I'd just illustrate the importance of the points in a transaction. When you charge someone a point, it's 1% for a year. And so it's as if they were um, taking the loan for the entire year and paying you that entire percentage point. But in reality, they are only keeping the loan for 6 months. And so, in that regard, the points are like they're doubled because the farther you get away from the points, the less impactful they are because the points are affected by time because you get the entire year's interest and regardless of how long they borrow the money. That 13% APR is an annual percentage rate. And so if you get $100,000 and you have a 13% APR, that means at month 6, you're earning $6,500, right? So $6,500 is what you earn off of that 13%. You earn $6,500. Off of the points, the 3 points that are associated with that, you earn $3,000, right? So now you earn a total of $9,500 in the 6 months. And that comes out to 18, 19%. And so during that curve where the points are super impactful at the beginning of that loan and then they kind of taper off, right at 6 months, it's exactly 19%. But for most of the time of that loan, it's above 20%. And that's because of the points. And so the points are more powerful than the interest rate that we talk about. So, like the 13% only nets me $6,500 on a $100,000 loan at month 6. But the 3 points net me $3,000. And so that's an illustration of how powerful those points are. And that's why if you lend and you're lending at 14% and 2 points for 6 months, the return on that is 18% at 6 months. But if you flip it and you say, okay, I'm going to lend you 12% and 4 points, then at 6 months, the yield on that is 20%. And so a lot of times your borrowers only focus on the percent that you say and they ignore the point. But as the professional, whether you're borrowing or you're lending, you have to understand that the points are more powerful than the interest rate. And you can make your loan sound cheaper by saying, oh, and I'll do 12% and 4 points instead of 14% and 2 points. But in reality, the 12% and 4 points is for 6 months is more expensive to your borrower. That 12% and 4 points, it's 20%. And then I'm just kind of babbling on. But it's important that you understand how those points work. And the shorter your client borrows the money, the more impactful and important those points are. And we say points because we are being transparent. Another thing of points are fees. People ignore fees when they're borrowing money. And I guess if you're a borrower, you can use that to your advantage because you could say, oh, I'm doing 14 and 3, but I have some origination fees and I have a lawyer fee and I have a draw fee and like all those fees. Because what you should really be calculating is how much of the money comes out of your pocket to borrow said money in the time span. And points are the most powerful. Points are also fees. They should be equal, right? And that you pay a fee one time and it doesn't matter how long you keep out that loan. In that regard, fees and points are very similar. They act the same. And I will tell you, as someone who collects that money, the fees and the points are exactly the same. And then that interest rate is less important because it's not impactful because most of your borrowers are borrowing the money for about 6 months. Okay. I'm not sure if that helped or if that confused or let me know. So hit me up in those comments. If you'd like to learn more of what I do, check me out, richlandon.com. And the Smarter Wealth Blueprint is a spot where you can go and I really lay out like how these things work and how we fractionalize that notes. And I don't know, if you're still interested, hit me up with a growth call. My beta group is up and running. It's doing well. And I have a spot or two. And man, there's a bunch of people on Facebook who said beta, and I just didn't have a chance to get back to you. And I post like 6 times a day, 7 times a day. I'm a Gen X guy, and I lose track. So we do have a spot or two open. If you are interested, just hit me up. Hit me up in the DMs. I'm very unlikely to miss a DM, but sometimes when there are 45 responses to my Facebook posts in a day, and I go to bed, and there are 7 more posts, I kind of get lost. All right. I hope everybody has a great day. Today's Thursday, so we're going AI Friday. And I hope everybody have a great day.